Welcome to Story Pulse. If you enjoyed this tale of unexpected challenges and personal growth, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community for more captivating stories. Don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. Your engagement helps us bring you even better content. Stay tuned for more unforgettable stories, only here on Story Pulse. Lucas Marshall, a wealthy and self-assured man, had spent his life dominating every competition that came his way. Business was his arena, and in matters of life, he was no different. Confident, calculated, and always looking for the next challenge, Lucas thrived on being the best. But one fateful evening, at a lavish New York party, he was about to accept a bet that would shake his world in ways he never imagined. It started innocently enough. Jack, a close friend of Lucas, smirked as they stood together in the crowd, surrounded by the elite of the city. "Let's see if you can win this one, Lucas," Jack teased, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "I bet you wouldn't have the guts to marry a woman who doesn't fit your usual type." Lucas raised an eyebrow, momentarily thrown off by the boldness of the challenge. His life was built on winning after all, and he was always eager to prove himself. "And what's the prize?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. With a sly grin, Jack raised his champagne glass, his voice low and enticing. "$1 million to the winner, but here's the catch. You have to marry her and stay married for at least 6 months." The idea of a challenge that also promised a hefty financial reward was too tempting for Lucas to pass up. Without a second thought, he agreed, his competitive spirit flaring. Little did he know, this decision would change the course of his life. The woman Jack had in mind was Khloe Richards, a name Lucas had never heard before. She didn't fit the mold of the women Lucas was accustomed to. She wasn't the kind of beauty who graced the covers of magazines, and that intrigued him even more. The deal was simple. He would marry Khloe, stay married for 6 months, and win the $1 million. It seemed like just another business transaction to Lucas. But when he learned more about Khloe, he was taken aback. She was confident, independent, and strong-willed, a far cry from the women he typically dated. The thought of marrying someone who wouldn't be swayed by his money or influence thrilled him. For the first time, he felt the challenge of facing someone who wouldn't bend to his will. Their first meeting was set at a luxurious restaurant, the kind of place where Lucas felt at home. When Khloe entered, she immediately stood out, not because of her appearance, but because of the way she carried herself. She wasn't awed by the opulence of the place or by Lucas himself. Instead, she met his gaze with unwavering confidence. "You must be Lucas Marshall," Khloe said, sitting down at the table. Her voice was direct, no pretense, no flattery. Lucas, ever the gentleman, extended his hand with a controlled smile. "And you must be Khloe Richards," he replied, studying her with curiosity. Khloe didn't immediately shake his hand. She hesitated, then gripped it firmly, her handshake powerful and unyielding, a clear sign that she was no pushover. "I know why we're here," she said bluntly, cutting through any pleasantries. "I know about the bet, the terms, and the conditions." Lucas, momentarily surprised by her directness, maintained his calm demeanor. "And yet you still agreed to meet?" he asked, intrigued by her decision to go along with such an unconventional arrangement. Khloe's eyes met his, her gaze unwavering. "Let's just say I have my reasons. I'm not naive, Lucas. 6 months may seem short, but a lot can change in that time. If you think you can manipulate or control me, you're mistaken." Lucas, ever the strategist, found himself intrigued. She was proving to be more of a challenge than he'd anticipated, and that only fueled his interest. "This is going to be interesting," he thought to himself. As the meeting ended, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that this game wouldn't be as easy to win as he had first assumed. He'd underestimated Khloe, and she was quickly becoming the most fascinating puzzle he'd ever tried to solve. Days passed, and the date of the wedding drew nearer. Lucas couldn't help but feel the weight of the challenge before him. He wasn't used to being anything less than in control, and yet with Khloe, he felt like he was walking into uncharted territory. How would he handle a woman who wasn't interested in his wealth or status? Could he win her over? Their second meeting took place at a simple cafe, far removed from the glamour and sophistication of the places Lucas usually frequented. Khloe had suggested the venue, and Lucas, eager to understand her better, agreed to the change of pace. As he walked into the cafe, he saw Khloe already sitting at a corner table, sipping tea with a serene smile on her face. Her presence was calming, yet commanding. She greeted him with warmth, but there was still that unmistakable confidence in the way she carried herself. "I thought you preferred five-star restaurants," Khloe teased as he sat down. "Sometimes it's good to break the routine," Lucas replied, though he couldn't help but feel slightly out of his element in the humble setting. They exchanged small talk for a while, but it wasn't long before Khloe got to the point. "If we're really going through with this, I want to make a few things clear," she said, setting her teacup down with deliberate calmness. "I'm not interested in your money or your luxury lifestyle. 6 months is 6 months, and I plan on walking away from this exactly the same as I entered." Lucas was struck by her honesty. This wasn't about ambition or climbing the social ladder for her. She wasn't interested in using him for anything, and that was something Lucas found both refreshing and unsettling. "What do you want, Khloe?" Lucas asked, his curiosity piqued. "Freedom," she replied without hesitation. "I want you to understand that even though we're entering into this agreement, I won't be controlled by you. I have my own life, and that's not going to change because of a temporary marriage." Lucas couldn't help but smile. It wasn't the answer he had expected, but it was one he respected. He wasn't in the business of forcing anyone into anything, especially not a temporary marriage. "Fine," he said. 6 months after that, we go our separate ways." Khloe paused for a moment, studying him, as if ensuring he meant what he said. She had her own plan, and she was determined to see it through, no matter what. She trusted her own strength to resist any manipulation Lucas might try. The agreement was set, and both of them left the meeting with their roles clearly defined. But as the wedding day approached, Lucas began to feel that maybe this game wasn't as simple as he had once thought. The wedding itself was cold, a mere formality. Lucas walked down the aisle with all the confidence of a man who knew he had already won. But even as he took Khloe's hand in marriage, something shifted. Khloe wasn't interested in the grand ceremony or the lavish promises he offered. To her, this was just a transaction, and the terms were simple: 6 months, and then they would part ways. After the ceremony, Lucas took Khloe to his penthouse, a sprawling, luxurious space with sweeping views of the New York skyline. Everything about it screamed wealth, and Lucas was certain this would be where he would win Khloe over. After all, no one could resist the allure of his world. But Khloe wasn't impressed. As she stepped into the penthouse, she remained distant, her eyes cold and unyielding. 6 months, Lucas, not a day more, she said firmly, gazing out at the city without a hint of awe at the luxury surrounding her. Lucas, confident in his usual methods of winning over women, smiled. He had played this game before. He was sure that eventually Khloe would succumb to his charm and wealth. But as the days went on, Lucas found himself facing a challenge unlike any he had ever known. Khloe was no ordinary woman. She wasn't interested in his riches, his power, or his influence. And as much as Lucas tried to use his material world to win her over, he found himself tangled in a game that was far more complicated than he could have ever imagined.